Welcome, welcome. We'll get started in a bit. All right. Get started in a bit, guys. Welcome, welcome. Marco, what's up? I'm sure you can hear me. You can hear me, right? Perfect. Yep. All right. We're getting started in 1 minute. Thanks for joining.
No worries.
Yeah. Just be careful while you're driving. Let's see here.
Can you see what I'm doing?
No, it's just dark.
What about now?
Oh, man, you're driving. I could hear it. Oh, no, there's some people in the waiting room here. All right, let me admit people in here. Just give me a few seconds. We'll get started. Adriana, thanks for joining. We'll get started in a bit.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. So I'll share my screen in a bit. Just letting some people join right now. We'll get started in a second here. Tony, what's up? Thanks for joining. Good to see you.
Why he said you?
Oh crap!
Why he said Tony? Why he said Tony?
Just welcoming you on here.
Why Tony? Why he said Tony?
He's talking to me.
Let's see. It should, period. All right.
Hey, Voltaire.
Hey, what's up, Robert? Thanks for joining. Cool. All right, so we could get started here.
Mute myself.
Who's Robert?
Who's Robert? All right, so I'll introduce everybody right now. We'll get this going. All right, so let me start. The recording already started, so here we are. So we're in December, believe it or not, December 3rd, 2020, 6:30 p.m. Today is a Thursday. Thanks for everyone who's joining us. Thanks for your time tonight. I know it's these late nights, are tough. Well, I'm sure for everybody, right? We're working all day, and now we're gonna be working on ourselves. So kudos to you guys first, because to spend time working on yourselves after a long day, it's tough, but that's what it takes. That's what it takes for you to get to the next level, build wealth and grow. And that's what we're all doing here. That's why we're on here. So first and foremost, just wanted to let you guys know a little bit about myself, and then that way we're all on the same page, and you know exactly who's talking. My name is Voltaire Lepe. I've been in real estate for 18 years now. I have 17 tenants right now currently paying me rents from the different properties that I own. I did my first wholesale in 2005, profited $35,000. I'm a full-time real estate broker, commercial and residential, property manager, and I manage a brokerage with 20 associates. I've given money to local sports, and I've done deals anywhere small as 50,000 all the way to 11.1 million. And this year alone have helped 80 plus families with their real estate transaction. So we're doing this presentation to help you and teach you how to just double or triple your cash flow on your current real estate properties. We also have Robert Kelly. He's on. Robert is a longtime real estate broker and lender as well. If you want to give a quick background as to how many years, Robert, and a little bit about you, that way everybody kind of knows about you as well.
Sure thing. Well, I've been in the business for the same time as you have. For everyone on the call, Voltaire and I went to high school together, and he started on the real estate side. I started on the lending side. So I have been doing it for a while. I do have a Bachelor of Science in Finance, and I've been been investing in real estate. And normally, I believe this year so far, we've done about, I want to say $70 million in transactions. So it's been a busy year. I also am invested in the private money side. If you guys do need any assistance on that side, we can help as well. And hopefully the goal today is to, at least from my end of the table, is to help you see how you can use financing to increase your profitability.
Perfect. Well
and
said.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah, our pleasure. Your audio is pretty bad, but we could hear, I think most of it, but it's all right. Robert's been in real estate a long time. We went to high school together, and I took his spot on the basketball team. Sorry about that, Robert. But
sure you did, buddy.
All right. So going back to today's presentation, you guys have. Let me share my screen here. You guys have seen a similar presentation, and in real estate, just like in life, you're always learning and you're always like figuring things out. And the last workshops that we've had is how to play Monopoly with real estate and increase your net worth. And we talked about different examples. And what I realized just recently was that it wasn't as concise as I wanted to be, because I was mixing somebody who has come up in real estate, become a millionaire using their primary residence, and I've talked about this book before, right? And that's what a lot of people have done without even knowing. And I've also mixed those stories in with people who deliberately have came up on real estate, like myself, deliberately with a plan, not by accident. And then I've even left off some of the best stories. And some of the best stories are people who have accumulated massive amounts of wealth, normal people, believe it or not, through the 1031 strategy. Welcome everyone who is joining us. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to make this very concise, because in the past, again, I just kind of bundled everybody together as real estate investors. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to concisely explain each one and tell you about tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is how to double or triple your cash flow. By the way, I just muted you, Armando. If you need to speak, you could unmute yourself. There's a lot of background noise. Okay, so going back to tonight's topic is I'm going to show you guys how to deliberately make, double or triple your cash flow compared to before, where it was just kind of like by accident and it wasn't as concise as I wanted it to be. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So from what I could gather and from what I want to teach you guys, there's 3 ways to increase your net worth in real estate by using real estate. Okay, the first one is the primary residence, and I just want to make sure that you guys can't see my screen right here, right? Where I have primary residence, BRR, yeah?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you, Jenna. Okay, so primary residence. Yep. This is the way that most people come up without even knowing, okay? And I give an example of our plumber customer. It's one of my favorite stories of all time. It shows how an ordinary person with ordinary job could accidentally stumble his way into becoming a millionaire, okay? And just in case you guys forgot, I'm just gonna show you real quick about the plumber. He bought his first house in 2013, hasn't been that long, 7 years. He bought it for $223,000, that's what the prices were back then. He bought it in the hood, it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. He only put $7,800 out of pocket to buy this home. And in 2017, he said, hey, I need a bigger home. My family's growing, so I'm going to refinance. Out of this home to buy a bigger home. And he didn't even really say refinance. He just said, hey, I want to buy another home. So he talked to his lender, and his lender said, hey, actually, you don't need to sell your first home. You just move out of your first home. We'll pull the down payment from your first home, and then you could use that down payment to buy your second home. So in 2017, he bought this home on Alvera. And again, some of you guys have heard the story before, but I just want to, touch on the 3 ways to make money. This is the first way. You stumble your way on accident most of the time. So he bought this home on Alvera in a slightly better neighborhood for $435 in 2017 by using the down payment from the first property. Okay. And then 2 years after that, he found this home that was right next to his best friend's house. And he just said, I want to live next to my best friend. It had nothing to do with real estate investing or nothing. It was just like, I want to live in this neighborhood so our kids could grow up together. So he buys it 2019, and he uses the same down payment from the first time he refinanced to buy the second home. So basically he's $7,800 in. Let's say with closing costs, let's say he's $10,000, $15,000 in to buy 3 properties, to own 3 properties, okay? That's how most people in real estate kind of come up. There's no plan. They just need a place to live, and it happens that way. Now, with that being said, over the years, he definitely made some moves. He's positive cash flow, $950 on the first home, positive cash flow, $550 on the second home. And his current home where he's living, his payment's almost $3,300. But if you take the money from the first 2 properties, he's really only paying $1,151, which is amazing. It's lower than rent. And the calculation goes something like this: by the year 2044, his net worth is going to be over $3 million. That's after inflation, appreciation, principal pay down on those properties that his tenants are paying for. And that's if he doesn't do any other moves. Okay. He's going to be worth over $3 million in 2044, and potentially even sooner if real estate, continues to accelerate. Okay. Awesome. So now, with that being said, that's the first example. Let's go back to, okay, so that's the primary residence come up, okay? Now we're gonna be talking about the BRRR investor come up. So if you guys remember this workshop, we talked about, this is a story that myself, as a real estate professional, and many other real estate investors and real estate professionals have done to generate wealth through the years. This is a deliberate action and is based on never selling any properties and adding to our portfolio by using the equity in our current existing properties in order to purchase more real estate, okay? So this isn't like, let's say the plumber story, where the plumber story was just like, he wasn't deliberate about it. There was no plan. It was just like, I need a place to live, and he just keeps doing that, right? This is more like, myself, and I'll give you an example here that we got is BRR example. Okay, so what's BRR? You buy a home, okay, an investment home. You rehab the home. You refine. You rehab. You fix it up. You rent the home, and then after you rent it, you let some time go by. 5 years pass, and then you refinance out of the home, and you pull out equity from the home. Okay. So in this example, we pulled out 125,000, then we repeat it. So that's what BRRR method is. So I'll give you an example. Okay. This is an example on one home that I bought. And by the way, if you have the cash, if you have the money to do this down payments, you get to do this so you have different streams. I'm going to show you one stream that I did. Okay. I bought a house in 2013, bought it for 200, and I fixed it up for an additional 230. The down payment was 50,000. So I needed basically total investment of 80,000. The value at that time was 280. I held it for 2 years. The value had increased to 330. I pulled out 70%. Okay, that's basically 231. So I put a loan on it for 231. I paid off my old loan of 150. So I really pulled out $81,000 out of this property. Okay, so if you remember, I invested a total of 80,000. I pulled out 81,000 a couple years later. So I got my money back, and I took my original money and I put it on the second property. 2015, bought this property 235 plus 40,000 in rehab. All in, I'm invested into a 275. I put down a down payment of 46,000. That was, I think, 20% back then. So the loan was 184, and obviously I spent some money. So 46,000 plus 40,000 for the rehab. I was all in for 86,000. So on this one, I took about 81,000 from the first property, plus another 5,000 that I had saved in my pocket. So now I have 86,000 to buy this property. The value at the time was 330,000. Okay, you guys are following? And then I held that property for 2 years. And at 2 years, the value was 370. So I refinanced 75% loan to value. So that means I pulled money. Okay, so I pulled $90,000 out of this property. And then I took that $90,000 and I went and bought house number 3. Okay, so again, if you guys are following, I'm using the same $80,000 over and over and over. Okay. So all in, I'm at 269 on this property, house number 3. I bought it for 239 plus 30,000 in rehab. I'm on it for about 269. The down payment was 47,000. Total investment was 77,000. So it was zero out of my pocket because I pulled out 90,000 from house number 2. So the value was 340,000. Okay, so in 2016, I sold the first house number 1. I bought a 4-plex with that money. And I'll get into that in a bit. But basically, at the end of the day, with this one stream of $80,000, okay, I was able, after 7 years, to have $1 million in equity just from one stream. Okay, so at the time, I did this multiple times because I just didn't have $80,000 back then. I had more, so then I got another $80,000 and I did the same thing over again, right? So this is, and by the way, the gross profit here on a monthly basis is almost $5,000, $4,959. After property taxes, interest, mortgage, and PITI, principal, interest, tax, and insurance. Okay, so almost $5,000 a month in income from $80,000 original stream. Okay, so going back to this is the BRRR. I might have missed an R. Investor come up. Okay, so again, the first one is the primary residence come up. You just buy a house and you keep buying a house because you need to live somewhere. The second is deliberate action from an investor that has money, because you got to have capital for this one. And then the third one that, again, I kind of convoluted last time, it wasn't clear, is the power of the 1031 exchange. Okay, so the power of the 1031 exchange. So going back to the last workshop we did, which was called Monopoly, the Monopoly one was, it's a game. At the end of the day, you saw what I did with house 1, 2, and 3, just like the plumber did with house 1, 2, and 3. It's a game, and it's like, okay, how are you going to play this game? You have options, right? You could refinance, you could buy another one, you could trade them for a hotel like Monopoly. So now we're going to talk about specifically about the 1031 exchange and what you could do when you have options, especially right now, because interest rates are super low, as Roberto's going to explain in a bit. So going back to the power of 1031 exchange, this is a tool that many large apartment complex owners use in order to continue to double their doors and cash flow. They're okay with selling the current homes or properties that they own in order to become more wealthy. This is a deliberate strategy. And this is key right here. They don't get emotionally attached to the real estate. Okay, a lot of us get emotionally attached to our real estate, and that's our downfall, because we're like, let's say we're the primary residence plumber, right? That's a come up, or you're the realtor that, you know, had investment money to invest, and all of a sudden you're at 3 properties, or you're at 4 properties or 5 properties, and you're like, I don't want to mess this up. I'm just going to keep these properties. I'm going to pay them off, right? Because that's a lot of our mentalities. You know, maybe poor people mentality, where we're like, we're going to pay it off to 0 balance, and at that point, I'm going to have 5 properties paid off, and I'm set, right? That's one way to look at it. But the really wealthy people that I've seen that own 300 units, 400 units, 500 units, they don't get emotionally attached to the property. They look at it like a business, like monopoly, and they say, no, I'm going to keep 1031ing into bigger and bigger properties. So let's look at how that looks like, okay? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys what I'm going to share with you guys some examples of real people that are currently in the situation that I ran analysis for. These are all analysis that I run for some clients right now, and they're deciding. It's like, it's monopoly, and they have a choice. Hey, are we going to make either a move where we just refinance and make money on saving on the interest every month? Okay. Are we going to do a 1031 exchange, and are we going to trade a house for a triplex? Okay, that's all you're doing is trading. Or number 3, did we review the refinance option, and did we review the trade from a house to a triplex or a duplex option, and we don't like either of them? So number 3, the option is not do anything at all, and that is an option too sometimes. But that's why you always got to review your real estate portfolio to see what your options are and what you should do. So what I want to start off with is with this guy right here. He's an accountant that owns a nice rental in a nice area. How does he own that property? Well, he bought it to live in 2009, and then in 2013 or so, he moved out. He bought himself another property that he moved into. And that first house, that was a nice house in a nice area, he ended up just keeping it and renting it out. Okay, so right now it's worth about $625,000. If he sells, he's gonna have $285,000 in his pocket after all fees in order to go and pursue a 1031 exchange option or trade. Okay, so he's gonna trade this house, and with that $285, he's gonna buy a triplex. He's gonna trade into a triplex. Okay, so that's the scenario we're looking at right here. So this is a scenario. If he does a 1031, he puts $285,000 right into this triplex that's pushing out $4,100 a month. His monthly payment would be $2,800. He would cash flow about $1,271. Now, one thing that's missing here, right in here, right now, currently, he's breaking even. Okay, meaning on this house, you know, tenants are paying mortgage. So he could go from making $0 a month to $1,200 a month, right? That's one option. The other option, which isn't on here, let me write it in here. Option 2 would be he could refinance and start cash flowing $300 a month. Okay, so these are his options. Let me highlight this real quick. Option 2, refinance, meaning reduce his interest rate, because right now his interest rate is like probably from back in the day, from when he bought in 2009. So he could refinance and he could save $300 a month. That's a good option, right? Or he could trade this property for 3 units, and then he would cash flow $1,271 a month. Option 1. Let me highlight that so we could see it nice and clear. Okay, so what did he decide? Just as of last week, he decided to go for option 1. And because at first he was going to go option 2, which is a great option. You know, you're lowering your monthly payment, you're saving $300 a month, or you're making $300 a month in this case. But then when he saw this number where he could quadruple his cash flow on a monthly basis, he says, you know what, I'll just go ahead and sell the property. Now, what was stopping him originally was it was his first home that he ever bought. So he's like emotionally attached to the home and he doesn't want to make any mistakes. But in this case, and by the way, this triplex, let me show you real quick which one we're talking about. This is a triplex. It's in National City. I have it here on the map. Oops, that's not it. Here we go. Can you guys see it here? So this is like a nice little property. You have a 2-bedroom house right here in the front with a garage, and then you have upstairs, downstairs, 1 bedroom right next door. I mean, this is a nice triplex for $700,000. Now, the house that he owns is worth $625,000. So for $75,000 more, which isn't coming out of his pocket, remember, he's selling the house that his first home and just transferring that money or trading into this triplex, nothing out of his pocket. And now he owns 3 doors, 3 units, 3 tenants paying him rent, as opposed to 1 tenant paying him rent. Robert, do you have any feedback on this so far, as like this guy?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me well now?
We can hear you better. It's staticky, but we could hear you.
Give me one second. Let me try
Sure.
to switch.
Or you could call in, maybe. You
How
might
is
have
it now?
I think I could hear you good.
Give me 1 second. Is that better?
We hear the background, but yeah, we could hear you. We could hear you fine.
Okay, sorry, just that I'm in Kansas.
Oh,
In Kansas, in a restaurant, in a room, and it's empty. So
it's all good.
okay, so so yes, actually I have comments pretty much on everything you mentioned. Cash flows is really the name of the game, right? So in all of the scenarios that you have gone through, every single one of them, it's a cash flow game. You take them from either not receiving any rents to receiving rents or increasing the value of the rents they receive. And if you notice that, the game never says, the paid in full game. The game is to owe, but have a cash flow, because the more you owe, even if the cash flow is a fraction of the balance of your liabilities, it will still be a very large amount that's coming in on a monthly basis. To just paying them off and having rents free and clear, well, you have to think about a couple.
You're cutting out now. Can't hear you.
Things. You have rents free and clear, but you also have taxation. And normally the amount of time that can you not hear me?
No, you're cutting out. I
Hello?
think we can't hear you, but what we could, Robert, it's probably better
Can
if you
you hear
call
me?
in. It's probably better that you call in. That way you don't have to use your internet.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, call in. Okay, cool. All right, so going back to this, guys, this is the accountant with a fat equity. This is the other part about doing a 1031 exchange. You need equity in your rental, okay? You need equity in your rental to do this. I'll give you this example right here. There's a millennial, okay, that I know. She bought a studio to live in. She ended up getting married. Her husband has a house, so she moved into her husband's house, and the studio, she's renting it out. In her scenario, she's actually losing money on this studio. So she's, I think she's negative like $400. Okay, so let me write this in here for next time so I won't forget. Negative $400. $400 on the rental. Okay. And Raul, if you're listening, we could add this in here next time. That way it's really easy to see, you know, for everybody to understand if she's making money or losing money on the studio, right? So in her case, she has the option, again, refinance and lower her payment and almost break even. I don't know if she's still going to break even. Or she could transfer her equity of 122 and buy units. Now, in her scenario, unfortunately, she doesn't have enough equity to buy any units on her own. So she needs some more cash flow. She's actually, in this case, she's gonna need about $30,000. Let me change this to buy 2 units. So we're not gonna give her the 3-unit situation because that's the 3 units that I just showed you guys are $700,000. Let me show you the units again so you remember. That's that unit right there, $700,000, 689 basically. In National City, you have a 2-bedroom house, and then you have 2 1-bedroom studios. So in this case, Robert, and you could correct me here, is for these 3 units, you need 25% down as an investor, correct? You're probably not on, but I think that's the answer. Can you guys see my calculator right here or no? One of you guys could just let me know. If you could. Can you see my calculator?
No, we can't see it.
Okay, let me do it again.
I gave Kelly the number to call in.
Perfect. Awesome. Can you see my calculator now?
Yeah.
Perfect. So if you bought this triplex, you need 25% down, according to Robert, the lender.
Voltaire,
So,
can you hear
yeah.
me now?
We can hear you perfect. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Is it okay for me to talk now, or do you need to finish what you're discussing?
Yeah, let's talk about this real quick. So basically, I'm giving the scenario now of a young millennial who got married. She lived in a condo. She moved out of the condo with her husband, and she rented the condo, but she's negative $400 a month in that condo. So option number 1 is refinance and almost try to break even. Or option number 2 is use some equity that she has. So in this case, because she just bought 4 years ago, again, she only bought 4 years ago. She doesn't have that much equity. She has 122,000 in equity if she was to sell. And I'm doing the numbers right now on the triplex. If she bought the triplex for 700, she needs 175,000. So she's $50,000 short. So what we're doing now is we're gonna give another option. Instead of the triplex, she could buy this duplex. Let me show you guys this duplex. It's in El Cajon. This duplex is actually a nice duplex because you can raise the rents. Hold on, and it's lower. It's 600,000. Okay, so the front house is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a fireplace, and the back house is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. So yeah, and it's only 600,000, right? So let me share with you the calculator. And again, this is, let me see here. Okay, so instead of 700,000, let's say this millennial sells her condo, trades it for something like this for 600,000 times 25%, because that's what you need. So 150. Okay. Now, if you saw the screenshot where I showed you how much she's going to be getting if she sells this condo, she's only going to be getting 122,000. So if she has another $30,000 in her savings, then she could buy. She could buy this one. Let's see here. Sorry, 30,000. Yeah, so she needs 30,000. She'll buy these 2 units. The 3-bedroom, 2-bath. She could get about 2,300. And then the 3-bedroom, 1-bath. She could get about 2,100. So that's a total of $4,400 a month. Right, guys? So
Hey, Voltaire, just a heads up. All we can see is your calculator. Not sure if we're supposed to be seeing anything else.
yes, good. Thanks. Let me know. Yeah, I'm doing the numbers. So let me share again so you guys can see everything. Okay, so here we are, right? This is how much she would make after the sale, 122. She would need another $30,000, okay, to make it to 150 for the down payment. And she would own a property that she could gross about $4,400 a month in rent. Robert, do you know how much her payment would be if she bought a $600,000 property, a duplex, 25% down?
I'll tell you right now.
Thank you. And by the way, if you guys have any questions, let me know.
Payment, P&I. Let's calculate taxes of $600 plus you're at 2684. Let's say that you're going to be roughly about 2770, including insurance for both units.
Oh wow, 20.
770.
Holy crap. Okay. So if the total rents are 4,400, you're about 14, that's 1630 a month in profit?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so 1630 a month in profit. So check this out, guys. Right now she's negative $400. If she was to trade this condo for 2 units, she would be positive $1,600 a month from being negative $400 a month.
Well,
and by the
one
go ahead.
item to add. So how much is she currently spending for the condominium, including HOA?
I have that right here because I was just talking to her. She's paying $450 in HOA, and then her mortgage is $1,607. So she's at $2,057. Is that right?
So essentially, now she's going to be making $1,630 versus a cost if she just rented. And in this case, for example, just to give you guys an idea, she will not, if she currently lives in that unit, she would have to go and rent or buy something. But the beautiful thing about this is that once you buy an investment home, you can go and buy another property. If you bought it as investment and you can certify that, you can buy another property and buy it with 3.5% down with FHA or 5% down conventional. And then you can do the same repeat, right?
Right.
So, so there's, whenever you make these kind of moves, a lot of people get a little bit spooked because of the fact that they're going to be owing more money. But like I was trying to say earlier when I was getting cut off, is the name of the game is not pay your properties in full and live happily ever after. The name of the game is cash flow. So it doesn't matter whether you owe 1 million or 10 million. If you're cash flowing 500 grand or $1 million after all paying your expenses, it's irrelevant how much your balance is. The only thing that matters is how much you actually keep.
Yeah, how much
so
cash
in
flow.
this case, exactly. So whenever we pay properties in full, we have to consider as well that you will no longer have the interest write-off, right? So your taxation would increase. Then normally when people end up paying their properties on the longer game, on a long time, 15, 20 years, 10 years, when they pay them off, they also will no longer, they'll probably already run out of their depreciation of the actual asset, which is a huge tax advantage. So whenever you're estimating all of this, Voltaire is showing all of the numbers which show you one side of investing, but also having so many properties give you so much tax benefits because of all the depreciation that will go against your profitability, that you're going to be keeping money. And even if you're a professional in the business, or you're a business owner and you have profits on that, and then you show losses on your taxes because of depreciation, although it's not a real loss because it's a depreciation loss, that loss will go against your income as well and minimize taxation on your overall income. So there's two sides to the coin. When you have multiple properties with higher value, you have larger depreciation.
Yeah, no, and depreciation is huge. And guys, because I know when I first learned about depreciation or cost recovery, as it's now called with the IRS, I was confused. I was like, what the heck are you talking about depreciation, this and that? All I knew is that it was a tax benefit to you. And that's the easy way to put it, guys, is this. With depreciation, what you should know is all these billionaires you hear about that don't pay any taxes. So all these billionaires you hear about that don't pay any taxes, the reason why is because of depreciation and tax benefits of owning real estate. Okay, so just to make it super easy, because I know taxes is a complicated topic, the more real estate you own, just like Roberts just said, the more real estate you own, the less tax you have to pay, and you could get down to like making millions, like physically, and paying zero in taxes, which is crazy. We have a couple questions, or a couple comments too. So Raul said, for me, it's the peace of mind of having 2 to 3 doors, paying rent, instead of just relying on one person to pay the rent or mortgage. Good, that's a good point. The next one is, what is depreciation percentage for California? So depreciation is more of a deduction than a percentage. You could depreciate an asset over 27 and a half years on a residential property. So basically, just to simplify it, and R. Kelly, you could chime in, if your property asset is valued, let's say to the IRS, the improvement, the actual building is valued at $275,000, then for the next 27 and a half years, every year you could depreciate it by $10,000. And R. Kelly, you could chime in on how that affects your taxes.
Correct. So essentially, when you guys do your taxes, let's say that you have a car that you purchased and you have the ability to write off a fraction of the acquisition cost asset every year, regardless whether you financed it or not. So if you buy an asset that's $10 million and you finance $9 million, let's just say that was the case, you will still get to depreciate the 10 million, even if you only put $1 million cash. That's easily put, that's what it is the ability to recover the cost of what you invested in.
Yeah, so go ahead, Adriana, you have the question?
No, I want to comment something else on depreciation. Sure. Any improvements that you make over 3,500, you can also depreciate when you have an investment, and that lowers also your taxes. Yeah.
So with taxes, there's so many advantages. And someone just commented, which is smart. Jasmine said maybe property taxes and depreciation can be a future topic, which is a great idea. We could have an accountant on here and show us, if you make $100,000 a year, but you own 3 rentals or 4 rentals, this is how much you'll pay in taxes. That way you could kind of see the power of, like, it'll blow your mind, like, holy crap, people that own real estate don't pay anything in taxes. So I think that's a good topic. Thanks for chiming in, Adriana.
One of the biggest sounding cases recently is, Mr. Current President Donald Trump. He was all over the news, about his taxes and him not paying taxes and whatnot. Well, the reason why someone like him, who's a real estate based billionaire, is because of depreciation. So that's why someone like him wouldn't pay taxes, is because the assets that they have are so large that when they depreciate them, they offset the profit.
Yeah. So and that's exactly, one of the billionaires of many that don't pay any taxes because of depreciation. So, all right. So now what I wanted to do is I'm going to jump ahead because I'm excited to see, you know, the option that the plumber has. Okay. Because as you remember, I told you the story that so far the plumber's been, again, accumulated real estate kind of like without trying or knowing, you know, without a strategy. And now he's at crossroads because the crossroad is this. His first property, you guys can see my screen, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
He has thank you. He has $235,000 in equity, guys. 235. Okay. And he has a choice. Does he want to, does he want to do option 1, which is refinance? So let's look at his current situation right now. His rent is $2,250. His current monthly mortgage is $1,600. So he's actually grossing $650 in income a month. Okay, that's amazing. He has an option. Option is refinance. This is it. He can refinance down to $1,300. He'll shave $300 a month off, and he'll be grossing about $950 a month. You got that? So that's a great option. Now you're making almost $1,000 a month on $235,000 in equity that you have on your first home. Okay. Or will he go with option number 1, or we go with option number 2? Option number 2 is trade it for a triplex. Okay. So this is it. Option number 2. Let me highlight it in yellow. Trade it for a triplex. Okay. I'm gonna put it number 2. If we look at this example of this triplex, his new rental income would be $4,100 instead of $2,250. His new monthly payment. Well, can you run the numbers on this, Robert, please?
Yeah. What is it?
$700,000 purchase.
What down?
$235,000 down.
Okay.
30-year fix.
What is it? Fourplex, triplex?
It's a
Duplex?
triplex.
Triplex.
3 units.
Okay.
3 units.
You're looking before taxes.
No, after taxes, insurance, and everything. Just PITI.
Give me one second. About $3,010 a month.
Okay, so $3,010 a month. Okay. So this one might not be a good example for him or a good option. So right here, he's only making $1,090. So right here, to make all the moves and just end up with $90 more, or no, hold up. Where's option number? 950. So he's making how much more on this one? He's making
$140.
$140 more. So does he want to do all those moves for $140 more? I don't know. And maybe not. Maybe, like Raul said earlier, maybe he might, because he might want 3 tenants to pay his rent as opposed to 1. So there might be more security in trading.
But there's other factors also, Voltaire. You have to consider that over time, the growth of rent would be potentially higher on a triplex versus a lower unit count property. So what you may see now as the answer may not be the answer once you do a future value approach with a approximate growth of rental income over time for adjusted to inflation. It may still be better to own a triplex for that reason.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right, because a lot of us, obviously we don't know all the formulas to project and do all these things. So we just look at it from a basic level, just like most people, right? When they decide to rent over own, they just look at it from a basic level. Oh, look at my rent's $2,000. Why am I going to go and buy for $2,500, right? Because they don't look at all the analysis. So guys, just so you guys know, when you run your projections, call someone like Robert, call someone like me, who will actually look at the entire picture and things that you may not be aware of, right? Now, with that being said, Robert, let's run the analysis on the duplex, because I think the duplex is a better deal.
So what would be the numbers?
$600,000 with a $235,000 down payment. 600,000 purchase, 235 down payment,
So
PITI.
365 loan.
Yep. $365 loan.
You're looking at about $2,350 a month.
$2,350 a month. So $4,400 minus $2,350, that's $1,950. Am I accurate? Yeah, I think so, right? Yeah. So if the duplex is pulling in $4,400 minus your $2,350 down payment, you're making $1,950. So for the plumber, okay, so option number 2 isn't a good option, but option number 3, the duplex, might be a really good option, right? So check this out, guys. The plumber either has the option of A, refinancing and making, I'm gonna highlight this too, you know, making $950 a month. Good deal, keeping the property. It's his first home. Again, he's emotionally attached to it. Or option number 3, trading it for this duplex and making $1,950 a month. That's $1,000 more. That's doubling your cash flow. So who would think that he should refinance and keep the property and make $300 more money a month? Or who would say, hey, just sell the property, trade it for this duplex and make, you know, $1,300 more a month? So, you know, we're saying, you know, Adriana said 3. Okay, good. Go for the duplex. I would say that too. Do you want me to tell you what he did? You ready, Robert?
Yeah, what's up?
He chose option 1, keep the property and just refinancing. And you know, it's funny, but it happens all the time because people don't understand the power of the 1031 exchange. They don't understand, you know, we're emotionally attached to our properties, a lot of us, right? And I've been there too. They don't understand the power of just doubling your cash flow, tripling your cash flow. And it happens all the time. That's why so many people right now are refinancing. Even up to a few months ago, I wasn't giving this advice. I was telling people, hey, just, refinance, save the money. But then I caught myself and I said, hey, I have to be a better consultant. I have to be a better advocate of real estate. So anyhow, this is the power of the 1031 exchange and building up. And then from there, hey, he waits another 10 years if he buys his duplex, and then he could trade up to a 4-plex. And then he waits another 10 years, and then he could trade up to an 8-plex. And this is how people end up with 300 or 400 units. Hey, Robert, can you take over real quick and do commentary? Because I got to go open the door for someone. Hold on.
Yeah, sure thing. So, like I was mentioning earlier, the name of the game is cash flow, and cash flow can be increased in multiple ways. And the 2 main ways that it can be increased is 1, let's say that you have 2, 3 rents, or you have 1, you can raise the rent, therefore you would have a higher cash flow, but also lowering your costs. And when you're investing in real estate, the main way to lower your costs is obviously to have either an interest-only approach to payments, or you can have a longer term of the loan, or you can have a lower rate, or a combination of a lower rate with IO. Many people who are have gotten used to only operating under 30-year fixed mortgages that are fully amortized. However, interest-only loans are starting to come back in the market, and there's some good products out there now. And that can change the entire game when you're buying property. Normally, those products do not exceed 10 years. So normally, you're interest only. But 10 years is a vast amount of time for you to make moves, for you to sell a property, refinance the property in a 7 to 10 year mark to another 10-year IO. There is really no real need to pay off a property in full. The only thing that you care about is cash flow, or that's what you should care about.
Yeah,
So whenever you guys start looking at property and increasing cash flow, acquiring more and paying less for each acquisition on a dollar cost approach is the key of the game. Always be looking for ways to diminish or lower the cost of your financing, because that will be a huge advantage.
Yeah, and I think
when you're buying more and more properties, the higher the cash flow, that will also help you qualify for bigger purchases as well.
correct. Yeah, and you're right on where you say, the goal isn't to pay it off. And I think all of us grew up, well, I did, where the goal was to pay off your piece of property, because that's when you're the owner and the bank's not the owner, and but that's not the, I guess, once you start becoming like you have a bachelor's in finance, once you start looking and being educated that way, right? Because you went through 4 years of finance school, that's when you start to open up your eyes and be like, hey, maybe I grew up, learning the wrong thing, right? So with that, and by the way, I did make a mistake on that duplex. It was actually $2,050 of income a month compared to the refinance option of $950. I mean, that's incredible. That's doubling your money. And hopefully, the plumber down the road, starts looking at it more like an investment type of deal. Because again, he didn't come up thinking that way. He came up just, I need a property to live in. And, he's making choices based on that. So now I think he could definitely, double his cash flow on those properties. Now, I'm going to share with you guys one last thing. And then we'll go to some of these comments in the chat. But this is what I want to kind of leave with. And this is, everyone should pay attention to this. I know, Vanessa, you're listening. You're looking at buying a property right now, right? There's a huge opportunity for us to come up several different ways, okay? First opportunity, primary residence come up, okay? So we need somewhere to live. Buy your freaking primary residence and buy and keep doing that every 2 or 3 years or 4 years. And you could keep the first home, just like the plumber, keep the second home, just like the plumber, third home, keep it, the fourth home, you stay in there forever. So that's 4, that's one stream, okay? That's one downstream. You have 4 properties or 3 properties like the plumber. At the same time, if you're able to pull out money from one of those properties and then start buying investment properties now, or doing 1031s from your first investment property, like we just went over with the plumber, then you start a different stream of assets, of asset accumulation. So like me, for example, like what I shared with you, I started off just with the investor route. And I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to accumulate properties with 25% down payments or 20% down payments. That's all I'm going to do. Because I wasn't thinking, hey, I can start a different stream over here that's going to cost me almost for free, 3.5% down. And I'm going to pick up 4, 5, 6 properties in my lifetime over here for almost for free. And at the same time, I'm going to do the investment part because I have money. So for everyone out there that owns a home, and Robert, you could go more into this, but you could buy several properties using your primary residence loan, which is free money almost. It's 3% or 5% down. And you should attack both ways, guys. That way you can end up with multiple properties. R. Kelly, any final thoughts there?
Yeah, what I normally recommend people do, if they need to start somewhere and capital is somewhat limited, is always try to go with a multi-unit approach, okay? Meaning buying at least a duplex to start. When you buy a duplex, let's say with an FHA loan, the duplex can be $700,000 and your down payment still only 3.5%, right? So you don't have to put 20, 25% down. And after you buy the duplex, you can go and buy a condo because it's a move up since you want to have your independence. You want to lease the duplexes, you can go buy a condo with 5% down. And then after you buy the condo with 5% down, if you can do this a year after, you can buy the condo. And then if in a year from that point, if you have another 5% saved up to buy a home, you can buy a home and you can have in a matter of 3 years, 3 rents. And why is this important? Let's say that that's all you wanted to accomplish. You just wanted to have 3 rents because in 20 years you want to retire and you know Social Security is not enough and you're employed and you may hit jackpot or you may not during those 20 years. But what happens is that at that point you already have the duplexes, the condo, and the home. You can always move back to the condo, which is your lowest cost unit, and you already have the home that you can lease. You could have built an ADU on it in that period, so you can have those 2 rents, and then you can have the 2 rents from the duplex. So now you not only have your Social Security to retire, but you also have 4 rents from the 2 units. With the increase of rents due to inflation, now you have the ability to actually have a good retirement because otherwise it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And dude, do it. Sacrifice a little bit, buy some units. All right, so two last comments and questions before we wrap it up. I'll take one and Robert will take the other one. So the one I'll take is, in your opinion, is it better to own a multi-unit property or a detached home with an ADU/granny flat? To me, from rent purposes, it's the same thing. I would just go after the one that has the most rents, the better deal. Like kind of like we broke down these 2 properties right now. I mean, it looks like that 2-on-1 is better than the 3-on-1. As far as potential rents. So by the way, a granny flat, Ozzy, good thing you brought that up is you could buy a house right now, or you could live in your house, and you could, if you have a garage, you can convert it to a granny flat. For the paperwork to convert it, it's probably gonna be like $15,000, and then for the work to convert it, if the structure is pretty good, it might cost you another $30,000-$40,000. So like for $50,000-$60,000, you could have another ADU, additional dwelling unit, accessory dwelling unit, or a granny flat, and you could. That could bring you in another $1,200, $1,500 a month for rent.
One thing to add there, Voltaire, that most people don't know is whenever you have a property, you add an ADU, try to make it so that the ADU is attached to the property. Let me explain why. I had this case last year, and it was kind of heartbreaking. So this older man was talking to, he built an ADU in the back of his property that's separated from his unit. And he dropped about $200,000. Top of the line ADU, very nicely done. 2-car garage in the bottom, unit is on the top. Okay, so let's say you build a condo for $200,000, it's worth it. However, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac appraisal guidelines call it that if you build an ADU or granny flat and it's not attached to the unit somehow through an indoor hallway, or if it's a garage, something like that, they do not give you value as part of the regular square footage, although it's a livable living area. So essentially, his house was like 1,000 square feet in the front in a very high cost area. Then he built that 1,000 unit in the back. If that unit had been connected by a wall or by something to the house, then his property would have valuated as a 2,000 square foot home, and he would have valued it about $250,000 more than he did. And what happens is that because he wasn't attached, the property did not give additional value, since you can only compare it to other like property. So I know it's probably a little confusing, but essentially, if you build an ADU, build it attached to the property. If you want to use it for future withdrawals of equity. If you will never withdraw from it and it will give you higher rent to have it separate, then go for it. However, I think you always have to be ready to sell if someone's ready to buy.
I think the point there is just consult with someone like Robert or myself in order to, before you do any moves. I mean, you should have your team. You should go to your team for all those questions. So, and then here's a question. Ace is asking, are there currently any IO non-owner occupied loans? If so, what are the rates at? By the way, IO means interest only, non-owner occupied means investment for investors, okay? So are there any interest only investor type loans available? And if so, what are the rates?
Yes. Yeah, there are. The rates vary between non-owner and owner. They can vary between 2.75 and 4% IO, depending on the property, depending on the LTV, and depending on your FICO score. So essentially, rates that are IO are technically about a quarter higher in rate, a quarter to 3/8, so 0.25 to 0.375. However, because we're not paying principal reduction on your payment, the payment is still much lower than if you are paying a lower rate with fully amortized payment. So yes, there are, those loans are out there, yeah.
So they are out there, and check with Robert. And yeah, it sounds like it's not too more expensive. So it's actually pretty reasonable as far as pricing. I have a comment. Jasmine says, wow, good info. Thanks, Robert. And then the last thing, the last thing I'll say is, I got a message just saying, if I have 400,000 in investment in an investment property, how would I be able to pull it out? I have to be working first, correct? So that answer is a yes, you have to be working, I'm assuming, right, Robert, to refinance and pull money out of that property?
The easy answer would be yes. In reality, it depends. If it's someone, for example, retired, or someone that is on permanent disability, receiving state income, then you don't have to be working, no, because it ends up coming back to cash flows. So, but it's something that it would have to be reviewed. Your specific case would have to be reviewed to give you a specific answer.
Yeah, she's only receiving rental income, and I don't think she's disabled. It's just she lost her job.
Okay, if she lost her job and she depends on the job, yeah, she would have to be employed. You have to be back 1 month at work to be able to use it. Then she's disabled. She's disabled, then she doesn't have to wait for anything.
She just basically talks to you about refinancing, pulling out the money, and then making it work for her. By the way, the other option that you may have is just like we saw with the plumber. You know, you could either refinance, buy another property, and keep going that way and keep the property that you have, or the analysis might say, hey, you trade in this property with 400,000 in equity, and then you also buy a freaking 8-unit complex or 5-unit complex or whatever, and then
at that point, 100%. At that point, I would go with that. You can do a lot of damage, and you can buy a way bigger property with many more rents that will also appreciate more rapidly than a few rents or one rent. So yeah, I would go with that route.
Yeah. So once you start having like that type of equity, you could do some damage. You know, buy some 6-unit, 8-unit property. Okay. Jasmine asks, how about if you are employed but working part-time due to schools being closed, but do have a full-time job waiting when schools are open, and that's going back to the refinancing or pulling money out, getting a loan?
Yeah, if you are working part-time, let's say because your full-time job is on hold for, due to the COVID situation, in order to use, first of all, even if you weren't laid off or furloughed on your job, you would have to be working your part-time job for 2 years to be able to use that income. So if you have a full-time job and a part-time job, as long as you have been at your part-time job for 2 years, you can use both your full and your part-time.
Cool. Good.
Hey, could I ask one quick follow-up question to Robert?
Sure.
Hey, Robert. Info.
Hi.
Thank you to Voltaire. So if I understand you correctly, this was really interesting when you mentioned that if you're building an ADU that's freestanding versus being attached, from a Fannie and Freddie guideline, the lender would not look at the added value of the ADU, and it doesn't matter if it's just if it's like a single family residence that you add an ADU to that's freestanding, or let's say there's ADU to a fourplex. If you add the ADU to the fourplex, the Fannie or Freddie would not look at the additional value to ADU. Is that correct?
Well, if you have a fourplex and you add an ADU, technically you would go into commercial financing territory, because then it would be a 5-unit property, right?
Yes.
So you have to be careful in that instance. There's other remedies to have multiple rents. I have a client, and I'm not advising you to do this, but I'm just giving you the example so you know how some people do it. I have a client that has a fourplex, and one of the fourplexes was larger than all the other units. So he converted that fourplex into 2 units. Sorry, that big unit into 2 units. So now he had 5. So obviously he wasn't within the guidelines for 1 to 4 unit residential. He was commercial already. So what we had to do to meet guidelines, he had to reopen that wall that he put up and put a door in, and he had to remove the stove. That's what made him qualify. So those are some of the things that they have to do to get around those issues.
Right.
But if you stick to ADUs, I would say don't add an ADU unless you're thinking of not refinancing that property.
So you're saying even on a fourplex, if you add an ADU on it, it may make it it may actually not make it financeable under residential guidelines, because you're jumping from
Correct.
4 to 5 units, and
Correct.
you could not look at it as a regular residential loan if you're adding one additional unit.
It would be an uphill battle to get that to be
Interesting.
accepted.
I'm so glad I'm hearing this information. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and you guys can always reach out to Robert. Reach out to me. I'll share his info with y'all.
Oh, perfect. Will do.
I really thank you, Robert, for your time. Thanks everybody for joining. And again, the whole thing is we educate ourselves, we grow our wealth together. It's all about growing wealth and helping yourself out, your family, and then your community. So thanks a lot. Peace out. We'll see each other.
You're welcome. Have a good one. All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
All right. Peace.
Thanks, Voltaire. Thanks,
My
guys.
pleasure. Yeah, thanks for jumping on. We'll see each other. Be safe out there.
You too.
Thank you. Peace out.
Bye.
All right. Later, Tony. I know it's late out there on the East Coast. Peace out. Later, Claudia. Adriana, thanks for joining. Alberto, thanks for joining. Kevin, thanks for joining. Jasmine. Ozzy. Gio, peace out. Nos vemos.
Voltaire, give me a call later.
Okay, I'll give you a call.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Voltaire,
Yo.
te bañas.
I don't know. It's not Sunday. Peace.
It's too cold.